All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Judge Law, and we're going to proceed with our state expedited accusation calendar. These are cases in which individuals who were recently arrested and booked at the Fulton County Jail. With respect to their misdemeanor cases, they have already been formally accused by the Solicitor General's Office of Fulton County. This would be the defendant's initial appearance before a state court judicial officer, at which time we will inform the defendant of his or her case number, the charges, appointed counsel, as well as the bond amount and a court date if relevant. Ms. Lewis, we've got July 21st, yes?
That's correct, Judge.
All right, thank you so much. All right. So we will proceed with Courtroom 3, is that correct?
Yes, Judge. How you doing?
Fine, thank you. What's the other courtroom we'll be using?
Courtroom 2, Judge.
All right. I have a note here that position 3 is a medical reset. So Nazarene Davis is going to be reset to tomorrow's C calendar on July 8th.
Your Honor, it's going to be position 3 and position 14. They're both quarantined.
All right, position 14. Has position 14 been reset before? No, okay. All right, reset to July 8th C calendar for Jamal Morris as well. Okay, for those who are observing, again, this is a criminal misdemeanor calendar. If you are a defendant who has been accused of one or more misdemeanor offenses, please remember that you have a right to remain silent. Anything you say about the facts of your case, your statements can and will be used against you. So please remember to remain silent and let your attorney speak on your behalf. You do have a right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one, we will have appointed counsel from either the public defender's office or from a conflict defense list. Courtroom 3, who do we have?
Position number 6, Hightower, please.
Thank you.
Welcome.
We have Juanisha Natasha Hightower, accused of criminal trespass from July 6, 2022 in case number 22 CR 004-344G. Ms. Hightower, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is Ms. Wanda Gant. Now, I'm trying to see, pre-trial, who do we have?
8 total.
Mr. Tucson is right there. I'm so sorry. How could I miss you in the, go ahead. Okay. 8 total.
Last arrest, last arrest was on the 2nd of this month for trespass. Judge Morrow gave her 1,500 SOB jail for that.
All right.
He was arrested in March, criminal trespass. October, theft by taking. Another October, affray, cruelty in the third, 3 counts. 1 count ag assault, 1 count misdemeanor, possession of marijuana.
That's good. Thank you. Ms. Bacchus, please.
Good morning, Your Honor. How you doing?
Fine, thank you.
Good. Your Honor, this incident occurred on yesterday, July 6th. Officers responded to a call at 911 Joseph E. Lowry Boulevard in Atlanta. Upon arrival, the officer spoke with a gentleman by the name of Ahmed Shakil, who stated that the defendant, who had been banned from the property multiple times, returned and was currently on the premises at that time. He stated that she continually damaged property and stolen while on the property. So upon locating the defendant, she was taken into custody. Your Honor, as you heard, the defendant has 8 total arrests. She has a criminal trespass before. She has an open criminal trespass, which is 22 CR 004271G, as in golf. She had a $2,000 signature bond on this case for the same exact incident location. And I believe she's currently on probation for a criminal trespass at the same location. The state is recommending a $2,000 surety bond, a stay away from that incident location at 911 Joseph E. Lowry. There's also some concern of her continual return in her behavior while on the property. And so the state is also asking for an MHET. as well as no alcohol, drugs, or weapon while out on bond.
Thank you. Ms.
welcome.
Gant? Ms. Wanda Gant? Oh, sorry. All right, it looks like Ms. Gant is not available until 3 o'clock.
Oh, I'm sorry, Judge. That was for Maureen McLeod.
Oh,
Attorney
Maureen
McLeod.
McLeod, okay.
She's gonna take the conflict cases.
Do you see Ms. Gant on the, just saw her, did she fall out of the Zoom?
She may have dropped out, Judge. I don't see her name anymore.
Okay, let's give her a moment to,
She was here.
yes, she was. She
yeah.
was.
I got a text from her saying that her electricity went out.
Her power went out?
She's
Okay.
trying to, yeah, power went out and she's trying to log back on.
Okay, no problem. All right, we'll just hold a few minutes on this particular matter. All right, while we're waiting for Courtroom 3 for Ms. Hightower's case. Courtroom 2, did you have anyone in there who's represented by Ms. Kim, perhaps?
I do. We can go to Mr. McDowell. Is this
Okay.
number 11?
Thank you. I have Dorian McDowell, as soon as Mr. McDowell see it, yes? All right.
Yes.
I have Dorian McDowell, case number 22 CR 004-349E. Mr. McDowell was charged with unlawful entry into a MARTA station and obstruction of a law enforcement officer from July 6, 2022. Mr. McDowell, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Ms. Kim. Any priors, Mr. Tucson?
This is 10th arrest. Last was 2018 marijuana possession. 2012 reckless conduct dismissed. Before that was 07 marijuana DWAP. This was SOB jail recommendation.
All right, thank you. Ms. Duncan, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. In this case, the state is going to recommend a time served offer for this case. I've communicated that to PD Kim and I'm waiting on a response.
I did not have any chance to discuss that plea offer since I didn't know about it until now. So I do need some time with my client then.
All right. We will go ahead and have Mr. McDowell go back to the seating. And Sergeant, we're still waiting on Ms. Gant. Do you have another client for Ms. Kim?
Go sit back down. We can go to Johnny Michael,
All right.
and that's position 12.
Got it. Mr. Johnny Michael is 22 CR 004-350C, accused of simple battery and obstruction of an officer from a July 6, 2022 incident. Mr. Michael, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Ms. Kim. Mr. Tucson, any priors?
25 total. Last arrest was February, probation violation, FTA. That was out of Cobb. April 2021, 2 counts FTA, Cobb. Out of 2020 failure to appear, 2020 criminal damage to property, 2nd degree. That's open out of Dunwoody. On probation for shoplifting out of Cobb. So I got open case for the criminal damage to property out of DeKalb. Battery cruelty in the 3rd out of state court. It's 21 CR 006-168C as in cat. Has an open PI charge. That's 21 CP 198252.
All right, thank you. Ms. Duncan, what's your recommendation?
Yes, Your Honor. In this case, the state is going to recommend a total $3,500 surety bond. That's $3,000 for the simple battery and $500 for the obstruction of the law enforcement officer. In this case, Your Honor, it occurred yesterday at the Woodruff Park, the address 51 Peachtree Street. From what I gather from the warrants, Your Honor, this appears to be a random attack of violence. In this case, the defendant was at the Woodruff Park, and the victim, Ms. Roylie Jones, Royle Jones, common spelling, advised him to walk away from her while she was eating. And at that time, she advised him to walk away from her. He punched her in the face. When officers approached, he ran from officers. And he was later apprehended after trying to hide from the officers at that location. It was an Officer Adams. The state here has a concern that this defendant may be a danger to the community, Your Honor, given that this seems to be a random attack of violence, as well as the criminal history with this defendant. He does have several violent arrests, as well as violent open cases with the state court. This defendant does have criminal trespass convictions. So we are also concerned with a flight risk due to the fact that there are several recent FTAs and probation violations. So in addition to that $3,500 surety, we're going to ask for no further contact with the victim, a stay away from the Woodruff Park, a 2-week anger management course, no alcohol, drugs, and weapons, and no further violations of Georgia law. Nothing further from the state.
The police report said Piedmont Park. So are we doing a different, do you have a different location?
Let me clarify.
And I have a victim by the name of Amia Kelly. So I'm a little perplexed.
1 second, Your Honor. Let me make sure our information is matching because I don't have that name anywhere.
And Miss Kim, if you can monitor Miss Gant's
Sure,
progress.
sure.
Thank you.
1 second. My computer is going very slowly.
Your Honor, good afternoon. I'm
Oh.
back online.
Oh, excellent. Thank you. Okay.
Okay, just give me 1 second.
Mhm.
This is the warrant that I have for a Johnny Michael dated July 6, 2022. I have the officers as the Georgia State University Police Department, and I do have the victim as Roylie Howard Jones. It's electronic warrant number EW 0370291. The responding officer was S. McCrennan.
Okay, I may not have the right materials. I have Michael, last name Johnny, Ajany. Do we have another one?
Johnny is first name, Your Honor.
Oh, Johnny Michael.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yeah, that's what I have. And I have a bind over package from City of Atlanta.
That's not what I have, Your Honor. What I have is 2 warrants. And they do state Woodruff Park and Georgia State University Police Department.
Okay. That's not what's on Odyssey, so I'm not sure what documents there is, and there seems to be a confusion. So I'd like to get clarity for Mr. Johnny Michael's case.
Let me go back to.
Judge, this is Ms. Lewis. In Odyssey, I don't know which Odyssey you have, what part of Odyssey you had up, but on the jail, everything that the solicitor is saying is correct. That's the name and the name of the incident.
For a Johnny Toure Michael?
It's AJANI is the first name, and Michael, and it's case number 22CR004350C. There is a
22CR0043.
He has a companion case.
I may have been looking, yeah.
We're not
You're
on
right.
that one. Mm-mm.
I was looking at the companion case. Okay, I beg your pardon. Okay. All right, so it is the Piedmont Park and the Woodruff Park is for the companion case. Okay. All right, and Ms. Kim, what's your recommendation for Mr. Michael?
Yes, we would like to recommend for signature on bond, and yet, if Your Honor is not inclined to give him a signature on bond, of course, the lowest possible surety bond of $500 each, total of $1,000. He has been here in Georgia for all his life, 31 years, and he has not been employed for the last 1 year. He has 1 year of college education, and his mother resides about 2 hours away from here. He does not have any addiction to drug or alcohol, and since he has no financial resources, there's no way that he's going to be able to pay for any kind of bond at this point. So we would like to request for a very low bond for maximum $1,000, Your Honor. Thank you.
On the simple battery is going to be 1,500. On the obstruction is 500. Total bond is set at 2,000. This is going to be a surety bond. He's to have no further contact with Roy Lee Jones, to stay away 200 yards away from the entire location known as Woodruff Park. So that's the distance of the length of 2 football fields. His next court date is going to be July 21st. And we are going to go ahead and schedule both this case, the 22 CR case, and his companion case, 21 CR 006168C, to the SAP calendar of July 21st. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Moving back to Courtroom 3, we have Ms. Wanda Gant for Ms. Juanisha Hightower. And Ms. Gant, I don't know if you heard the state's recommendation, but if you like to rehear it, Ms. Bacchus can go over it, or if you'd like to proceed with your recommendation.
I would appreciate if the state could re-present. I did not hear that portion of it, Your Honor.
No problem. Ms. Bacchus, please.
Yes, the bond recommendation is $2,000 surety bond. Stay away from the incident location, which was 911 Joseph E. Lowry Boulevard. No alcohol, drugs, or weapon, and a MHET.
Thank you. Ms. Gant?
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Juanisha Hightower is 30 years old. She has been in the Atlanta, Georgia area her entire life. She is the proud mother of 4 children, ages 12, 9, 7, and 10. All of her children live with her, and she is not receiving any child support. Your Honor, we are unopposed to the stay away at the incident location. Ms. Hightower completed high school. At this time, Your Honor, she is unemployed. And she informs me that her nephew died yesterday, and that she desperately needs to be released so that she can participate in planning his memorial services. And further, Your Honor, any family resources are allocated to preparing for the burial of her nephew, Your Honor. She denies the allegations. She states that the people at the property definitely have a vendetta against her and call the police on her without her being there or doing anything, Your Honor. I am opposed to the MHET. I do not have any concerns regarding my client's competency, nor did I hear any sufficient basis for the state to make that recommendation. I am requesting a signature bond, Your Honor, and if you determine that she is ineligible, then I would ask for a bond of no more than $100, Your Honor. Thank you.
Your Honor,
Yes,
just quickly, as I previously stated, she knows that she's not supposed to be on this property. She already has an open criminal trespass case with a bond and probation from this exact same incident location. And while the state does empathize with the fact that she has lost a family member, that does not go to the fact that she does not seem to want to abide by the law. Because she has these past arrests and these convictions and this current probation, the state does feel that the $2,000 surety bond is appropriate. Nothing further, Your Honor.
And Your Honor, if I may, my client is presumed innocent, and I see a conviction, one criminal trespass conviction, Your Honor.
I agree with you, Ms. Gant. However, Ms. Hightower was already previously warned criminal trespass from the property. Judge Morrow has already told her to stay away from the location. And I don't see anything in the warrant that she was not at the location when the police arrived. So based on the circumstances, it appears that Ms. Hightower has blatantly disregarded the order of Judge Morrow, as well as the criminal negligence, criminal trespass warning. Her bond is going to be set at $2,000. It is a surety bond. She's to stay 500 yards away from the location known as whatever the store is called at 911 Joseph E. Lowry Boulevard. And she is not to enter the parking lot, the sidewalks. If it's attached to a strip mall, the entire strip mall, and definitely not in that store. She's also to have no further contact with Ahmed Shakil, who appears to be an employee at that location. And the name of the store appears to be Johnny's Store, where she's received multiple criminal trespass warnings. The next court date is going to be July 21st. Thank you.
Thank you, Your
Your
Honor.
Honor.
All right, next we got number 10, Ms. Martin.
This is State versus Renice Martin, 22 CR 004348C, accused of simple battery domestic violence from July 6, 2022. Ms. Martin, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is going to be Ms. Wanda Gant. And any prior, Mr. Tucson?
No.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Duncan?
Yes, Your Honor, this incident occurred yesterday at 3625 Boulder Park Drive. In this incident, officers responded to a domestic dispute call where they spoke with the reporting party, which was the victim in this case, Ms. Kawati Martin, that's Kuwati Martin spelling. Ms. Martin is the wife of the defendant in this case, Your Honor. In this incident, the Ms. Martin, the victim, is alleged to have been struck by her wife. She stated to officers that they are going through a divorce and that they were arguing about splitting of assets, including the house. The defendant in this case did admit to officers to having shots of Jameson and tears. Your Honor, the state has a concern for this particular victim, given that this offense is a violent offense and it did occur after the defendant in this case consumed alcoholic beverages, which implies to us that when this defendant becomes intoxicated, they may become violent. So we have a concern with intimidation of this witness, given the fact that they still currently live together. And even though they are not divorced yet, well, they are not divorced yet and they still live together. So we're concerned that this may happen again. So given those facts and circumstances, even though this is this defendant's first arrest, we're going to request a $2,500 surety bond due to the violent nature and the risk of intimidation present here. And it has been not 24 hours, so we don't think there is a sufficient cooling off period yet. No further contact with the victim in this case, a stay away from the incident location, 1-day anger awareness, no alcohol, drugs, and weapons, and no further violations of Georgia law. Nothing further from the state.
Thank you. Ms. Gant?
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Renice Martin is 39 years old. She has been in the Atlanta, Georgia area since 2015. Your Honor, she does have family here, including a wife of 5 years. They share 3 children, ages 13, 9, and 7. The children live in the marital home. Your Honor, we are opposed to the stay away at the incident location. Ms. Martin informs me that her name is on the mortgage and that both their names are on the deed. Ms. Martin completed high school and she has 2 jobs. She is working at Costco. She has been in that position for 1 year. She also just found a second job at BJ's. She has been working that job for 1 year. Your Honor, my client denies the allegations. And as we heard from the pretrial, this is her first arrest. Of course, she's 39 years old, married to the complaining witness for 5 years. Obviously, there is no intimidation here. My client denies these allegations completely. I am requesting a signature bond on Ms. Martin's behalf. This is a simple battery family violence case. My client is presumed innocent. I did reach out to Ms. Martin. I was unable to make contact with her, so we will defer to the court's ruling. However, my client wants to continue having contact with her wife. Your Honor, I would ask for a no violent contact order, and if Your Honor enters a no contact order, I would ask for it third-party transfer of the children and a one-time law enforcement escort so that my client can retrieve any belongings from the home. Thank you.
Your Honor, our office if I may, our office was not able to make contact with this victim, and out of an abundance of caution for her safety, since she was struck in the face by her wife, we would request that no further contact for provision stand with the court.
I have a Rosa Martin on the Zoom. Is Miss Martin, Rosa Martin, involved in this particular matter?
Your Honor, that is her mother. That is Miss Renice Martin's mother. She is here to just observe the bond hearing.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. Bond is going to be set at $3,500, and that's going to be a signature bond through pretrial services. I don't know if Miss Renice is listening to me or whether she's fallen asleep. Miss Renice, are you paying attention?
I'm listening.
Thank you. All right, your bond is $3,500. It's going to be a signature bond through pretrial services. You're going to be signing up with pretrial, and you will be reporting to pretrial once a month. You are not required to pay any bond money at the present time, but if you violate the conditions of the bond, then you will be rearrested and your bond will be converted from a signature bond to a surety or a cash bond. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Your conditions are no further contact with Kuwati Martin, to stay away from 3625 Boulder Park Drive in Atlanta, Georgia. And while you are also on your pretrial bond, I will allow for a third-party transfer with regards to visitation of the children in question. And the third-party transfer can be facilitated through Miss Rosa Martin if she wants to do it. While you are on a signature bond, you will attend and complete a one-day anger awareness program. You're not to consume any illegal drugs, no alcohol, and you're not to possess any weapons and any firearms. You will be subject to random screens by pretrial for illegal drugs and or alcohol. Your third-party visitation with the children will begin after you have completed an alcohol and drug evaluation, and upon satisfactory completion, then you may begin with the third-party visitation. So pre-trial, no third-party visitation until after she presents an alcohol and drug evaluation from a qualified healthcare provider. Within 30 days of being released, you will give the court, the clerk's office, your new address where we can send you notices for your next court date. You may return to the marital home one time only with a police officer for you to retrieve your personal belongings. This visit cannot exceed 2 hours. Thank you.
Your Honor, I do have a question regarding the ADET. Is that something that Ms. Martin has to fund herself?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome.
Next, we got number 13, Ms. Minor.
Ms. Helen Minor's case number is 22 CR 004351D. Ms. Minor has been accused of DUI, driving under the influence of alcohol, less safe. This is from a July 6, 2022 incident. Ms. Minor, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Ms. Gant. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is it Ms. Gant?
I believe so, yes.
All right.
No, Your Honor.
It's Ms. Kim. Who represents Helen Minor?
I think it's Ms. Kim, I believe.
All right. Ms. Gant, this is not your client, correct?
Let me check and see. if
I
it's-
apologize. I was on the phone with another client who had an plea offer from the state. So
No problem.
yes,
Okay, just wanted to be sure you were here. Thank you.
Yes.
All right, Mr. Tucson, any priors, please?
Yes. The last arrest was 2017 for DUI. It was amended to a reckless driving conviction out of Johns Creek. That's all I have.
Thank you. Ms. Duncan?
Your Honor, this incident occurred yesterday in the area of Jones Bridge Road. Officers were traveling southbound on Jones Bridge Road when they observed a Toyota Camry just inside the entrance of the Dalbin Elementary School on Jones Bridge Road. The officers observed what appeared to be a flat front tire, and when they made approach to the vehicle, they encountered the driver of the vehicle, who at the time seemed to have a hard time speaking with officers. They said that she was slurring her words as she spoke and was having trouble keeping her eyes open. And when officers approached, instead of stopping the vehicle, she drove about 5 more feet forward and then stopped. Upon further conversation with the driver of this vehicle, Your Honor, they noticed that she, when asked to get out of the car, she was having trouble getting out of the car, so much so that she attempted to get out before even opening the door, Your Honor. Officers did note that this defendant did have a strong odor of alcoholic beverage coming from her person. When asked if she had anything to drink that day, this defendant did indicate to officers that she in fact had had 3 vodka cranberry drinks about 2 hours ago. And officers asked if she would like to submit to a field sobriety test, and at that time she agreed. Upon conducting the horizontal gaze test, officers observed 6 out of 6 clues on that test. And as far as the walk and turn, the defendant engaged officers and let them know that she had a leg condition. So had a leg injury, my apologies. They observed an unsteady gait and a slight grade in her walk. Further, they said that she was having trouble holding herself up as she was swaying when walking towards the back of the vehicle. When asked for the consent for both tests, let me go back. She did do a breathalyzer test, and the breathalyzer read 0.
No, we cannot report the numerical reading of an alka sensor.
Okay, so the numerical reading was somewhat almost 3 times above the legal limit. However, when she made the consent form, she did say no at a later date, at a later time. We have a concern about the risk of reoffense here. Obviously, Your Honor, as pretrial has stated, this defendant does have a prior conviction for reckless driving, which was amended from a DUI in 2017. That is very recent, within a 5-year period. Given that, we have a concern that this defendant is a danger to herself and to other drivers on the road. As the court knows, driving while intoxicated or impaired is very dangerous. She could have hurt herself severely or others on the road. Given these facts and circumstances, the state is going to request a $3,000 surety, a defensive driving course, no alcohol, drugs, and weapons, and no driving unless to the doctor's office, work, lawyer, or medical. No further violations of Georgia law, and an ADET. Nothing further from the state.
Thank you. Ms. Kim?
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Minor is 54 years old, and she has been here in Georgia all her life. She has a child here. She's married. She has her mother and 2 sisters and 1 brother. I mean, she has a strong ties to the community, and she's not a flight risk. And she has a very good job that she has working as an accountant for the last 13 years. We would like to recommend for unsecured judicial relief as pretrial services recommended. And of course, 2017 DUI was actually, it became
reckless driving. Yes, I know.
So please consider that as, and then that's it, Your Honor. We would like to request for signature on bond.
Thank you. Bond is set at $3,500. It is a surety bond. No illegal drugs and no alcohol to be consumed while out on bond. Ms. Minor is prohibited from operating a moving motor vehicle unless she's expressly authorized with the use of a limited driving privilege or limited permit issued by the Department of Driver Services. And I believe they have very strict limitations on where she can operate a vehicle. Her next court date is going to be July 21st. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Next, we have number 16, Ms. Reese.
Heather Christian Reese is 22 CR 004354J, accused of simple battery domestic violence from July 6, 2022. Ms. Reese, you have been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Ms. Kim. Any priors, Mr. Tucson?
Second arrest,
All right.
2017, failure to appear out of Hall County.
Underlying charge, if you have it.
It's not on there.
All right, thank you. Ms. Duncan?
Your Honor, this incident occurred yesterday at 3311th Street in Atlanta. Officers were called regarding a criminal trespass. Upon arriving at this location, they met with the victim in this case, Mr. Kenneth Reese. Kenneth, common spelling Reese, R-E-E-S-E, who is the present spouse of the defendant. He indicated to officers that they are married, but they're separated. However, he indicated to officers that the defendant had been living with him along with their daughter, who has residence with him since February 2022. He indicated to officers that there was an altercation because he believed that Ms. Reese went into his locked room and took his mini passport and some U.S. currency. At the time, he went into her room with a video camera to look for his belongings, and she told him to leave. He moved a few things around, nothing in her direction or with any intention to hit her, according to the warrant, as far as what the officers observed. And she began to hit Mr. Reese as he was leaving the room. She hit him while he was in the hallway and proceeded to hit him again, and to which that point he did hit her hand to stop her from hitting him. Given that this is a violent incident, Your Honor, these two are married. We do have a concern about the risk of reoffense and intimidation in this case. They do share a child, and sometimes, as the court knows, children can be used as parts of prosecution to be able to persuade the other to not continue with charges, even though it's the state's prerogative. However, we do have an additional concern that this defendant is a flight risk due to that recent FTA. Given the violent nature of this offense, we're going to ask that the court grant a $2,500 surety bond, no further contact with the victim in this case, third-party child contact, a stay away from the incident location, one-day anger awareness, no alcohol, drugs, and weapons, and no further violations of Georgia law.
All right, Ms. Kim?
Yes, Ms. Reese is 51 years old, and actually she's the victim and she was not the initial aggressor. She is a legal guardian of her daughter who has a special needs, and Mr. Complaining witness has been complaining about a lot of special needs and how difficult it is to live with them. So they were living separately. That's what happened. And yet, since she got evicted from her other place, they had to reunite and live together from February 2022. So she is the one who has been asking for help. This is not the first time that the complaining witness actually hit her. And for some reason, she's the one who's in the jail right now. We would like to request for signature on bond as pre-trial services recommended. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your Honor, I do believe the victim may be on this call. And I just want to reiterate for the record that there is a video, and in that video, as officers indicated, the defendant in this case was hitting our victim, Mr. Reese.
Well, we already have a warrant, so we don't need the video. But yes, Mr. Reese, my name is Judge Law. And are you Kenneth Reese, the person involved with the case with Heather Reese?
Yes, Your Honor, I am.
And did you want to contribute any way to this bond hearing?
Your Honor, like I said, I just don't want no further contact as far as with.
All right. Anything else?
No, just as that, no further.
Have you all filed divorce proceedings?
Yes, I'm in the process of filing the divorce proceedings. I was also in the process of filing. Well, I've already filed eviction aspect wise.
Well, I'm more concerned about the divorce proceedings. Has
Yes,
it been filed and has she been served with it?
No, she hasn't.
Okay,
It's in the e-file system.
all right,
Yes.
understood. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Reese, your bond is going to be set at 3,500. It's going to be a signature bond through pretrial services. It's going to be a bond in which you would not have to pay, but you would have to comply with the conditions. Otherwise, the bond will be revoked and converted to either a surety bond or a cash bond. You'll report to pretrial once a month, and if you fail to report, the bond will be revoked. You are to have no further contact with Kenneth Reese. You are to stay away from the 33 11th Street apartment complex, the entire apartment complex, which includes the grounds, the lobby, the elevators, the parking lot, everything. And specifically, you're to have, stay away from the apartment 1515. You're to have within 30 days of being released from the jail, you will update the court, the clerk's office, with your new mailing address so that we can send you notice of your next court date. You're not to consume any illegal drugs, no alcohol, and not possess any weapons and any firearms. You will complete a one-day anger awareness program with pretrial services. And while you're out on a bond as well, you might want to consider revisiting this case that Mr. Reese has indicated that he has filed against you, because visitation with your minor child will be established by the divorce court order. So please be sure to respond to the court order and attend all proceedings so that you could get an interim, or what we call a temporary court order, establishing your visitation and joint custody arrangement with regards to the child or children that you share with Mr. Reese. All right, Ms. Reese, do you have any questions about the bond? We need to unmute Courtroom 3.
I don't really understand, but I'm sure that the paperwork will explain. Our
Ms.
daughter is
May I
not a
please
child.
call you? Ms. Reyes, you have every right to remain silent. I'll call you and explain to you.
Thank you.
Thank
Judge,
you.
Judge, I just want to clarify that the visitation currently is no visitation until established by the divorce court.
She has to stay away from Mr. Reese, no further contact with Mr. Reese, and her visitation with the minor child or children that she shares will be established by the divorce case that Mr. Reese has referenced.
Your Honor, her daughter is actually not a minor. Legally, she is 19 years old, and yet because of her special needs, she needs a lot of cares.
Understood. That's why it has to be done through Superior Court, where they can have the resources to get her a guardian ad litem, and then they can determine the situation based on her current special conditions.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Ms. Reese.
Your Honor, Ms. Kim, can you resume the talks with Mr. McDowell? He's still on the phone waiting for you.
Yes.
And, Your Honor, we're going to go to position number 2, Mr. Chandler, position number 2.
Thank you. We have Jamal Chandler. Are you Mr. Chandler?
Yes, so, yeah.
Your case number is 22 CR 0043398, in which you've been accused of reckless conduct and possession of a pistol or revolver by a person under the age of 18. This allegedly occurred yesterday. Mr. Chandler, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Ms. Wanda Gant. Mr. Tucson, any priors?
This is first. Again, he wasn't recommended due to the nature of the warrant.
All right, thank you. Ms. Bacchus, any recommendation?
Yes, Your Honor. The state is recommending a $10,000 surety bond, $5,000 for each offense, a stay away from the incident location, which is 1181 Westview Drive Southwest in Atlanta. No further contact with the victim, Kindred Pierce, and no alcohol, drugs, or weapon. Your Honor, we have not yet received the police report on this, and so the exact details of what happened are not clear. What we do know is that the defendant was illegally in possession of a firearm as he's 17 years old and not lawfully allowed to possess or carry. And it appears that the defendant was playing with the gun, at which time the gun went off and the bullet struck the victim, Kindred Pierce, in the chest. Pierce is spelled Pierce. The victim is currently still in the hospital, so we weren't able to speak with him, but we were able to speak with his mother, Miss Shamika Pierce. And she doesn't have all the information either, but what she did say is that her son is still in the hospital and he has 3 bullet fragments in his lungs. And so she's still waiting to find out from the hospital if he's going to need surgery. She may be on the Zoom if Your Honor would like to sound for her. We were potentially trying to transfer this to the DA for a felony transfer, but there obviously wasn't the intent or the aim necessary for the aggravated assault. So we're keeping it, but we do feel as though that bond recommendation is appropriate. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Who am I sounding out for?
Her name is Miss Shamika Pierce, and I was just saying if you wanted to sound for the victim's mother because he's still in the hospital.
Shamika's iPhone, I see there, but I don't know if that's the mother of Jamal Chandler. Okay. Ms. Gant, any response?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. Mr. Jamal Chandler is 17 years old. He has been in the Atlanta, Georgia area his entire life. He has family here, including his mother and siblings. Your Honor, Mr. Chandler was recently promoted to the 12th grade. He will be a senior at Washington High School. He is an average student. I've had the occasion to speak with his mother, Miss Bertha Matthews. She is willing to co-sign for him for a signature bond, Your Honor. She informs me that she is a single mother. She is supporting 8 people in their household. She has not paid her rent. That's due for July, and that Mr. Chandler is helpful to her around the house. In fact, he helps with, 4 of her children, ages 12, 10, 9, and 7. Mr. Chandler is not working, and nor has he ever worked, Your Honor. He does not have the means to pay anything toward bond, and we heard about his mother's circumstances. I'm recommending a signature bond, and if Your Honor determines that he is ineligible, then I would ask for a low bond, primarily because of my client's prior history. He does not have any history whatsoever. He is presumed innocent at this point. These are allegations. I would ask for, again, the signature, and if Your Honor is not inclined, then a bond of no more than $2,000. That would be $1,000 for each charge. And again, we are unopposed to the stay away and the no contact orders. Thank you.
It's $2,500 on each count. Total bond is $5,000. It's a surety bond. No further contact with the alleged victim, and that would be Kindred Pierce. And to stay away from 1181 Westview Drive, Northwest Atlanta, and goes without saying, hopefully, absolutely no weapons and no firearms. He's not to have a firearm in his home, on his person. As far as I'm concerned, he should never touch a firearm for the rest of his life. No firearms in any vehicle you occupy, whether it belongs to you or not, and definitely not anywhere near you. Your next court date is going to be July 21st. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Next, Your Honor, we're going to go to position 15, Mose.
This is case number 22 CR 004-353G, State versus Rakia Akasha Mose. Mr. Mose is accused of battery, domestic violence from July 6, 2022. Mr. Mose, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Ms. Kim. Ms. Kim, before we begin with the Mose case, are we going to go ahead and address a possible plea for Mr. McDowell?
Actually, even though I advised against taking the plea, he decided to take the plea and he will proceed as a pro se, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Duncan, was it? Are you prosecuting this case, or was that Ms. Bacchus?
Yes, Your Honor, this is my case.
All right, so if you have the plea paperwork, it needs to be emailed to the jail as soon as possible, so we don't have any further delay in regards to the McDowell case. Because he'll need to review it and sign it and send it back to us before we can proceed. All right. Okay, moving on to Mr. Moses' case. Mr. Tucson, any prior?
This is a fifth adult arrest. He got 4 priors out of Nevada. March 2019, trespass, not amounting to burglary. 2016 public order crime arrest. 2014 DUI conviction. 2014 disorderly conduct. And the Cali arrest was 05. That was a juvie.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Duncan?
This incident occurred yesterday at 6888 Roswell Road. Officers were dispatched to a domestic dispute call where they encountered the defendant in this case, who was also the caller. The victim in this case is a Mr. Bakari Simmons, Bakari Simmons, common spelling. In this incident, Your Honor, officers noted that when they first arrived, they noticed an overwhelming amount of fresh scratches on the chest and neck of Mr. Simmons. He was calmly sitting on the couch, waiting to be addressed by officers. He advised to officers that the dispute began when they were laying down in bed, and there were some issues between the two in the bed, and that's when the assault started, with the defendant kicking him. The scratches came later. Officers noted the marks and said that there was additional injuries that were slightly bleeding. Due to the violent nature and the injuries alleged in this case, Your Honor, the state is going to request a $3,500 surety, no further contact with the victim in this case, Bakari Simmons, a stay away from the incident location, 1-day anger awareness, no alcohol, drugs, and weapons, and no further violations of Georgia law. We do have a concern about the risk of reoffense in this case, Your Honor. They do live together, so that is an environment where hostility may still be present, and it has been less than 24 hours, as this offense did occur at about 11:05 last night. And due to the nature of a possible domestic relationship, we're concerned about the risk of intimidation as far as continuing prosecution for this offense goes. So given those instances, Your Honor, and this defendant's history, we're going to request a bond as stated with the conditions. Nothing further from the state.
All right, 2 questions. First of all, the warrant refers to the accused as female gender, but it's listed as a male. Rakia Mills, how are you identified?
Transgender woman.
Okay. And shall I address you as Miss Mills?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, Miss Kim?
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Moss is 30 years old, and she recently moved from another state. She's been here in Georgia for 5 months, and she does not have any family members here in Georgia. So because of that, and also she does not have a job. So we are kind of concerned about, there's no strong ties to the community, and yet she's responsible. She would like to get the signature on bond, and yet it may not be easy. We understand that part. However, the house, the apartment they stay together, her name is on the lease, and Mr. Bakari Simmons is not on the lease. So we would like to have an escort service to get to the apartment. And as soon as Mr. Bakari leaves, she can reside in that location, so she doesn't have to stay away from her own place. She would like to, she's working as a model here and there. That's what she told me. And I guess that's it, Your Honor. This is first battery charge, and we would like to request for signature on bond. And yet, if Your Honor is not inclined to give her a signature on bond, maximum $1,000 surety bond, Your Honor.
All right.
Your
I
Honor.
I see a Bakari on the Zoom. If this Bakari would like to contribute to this bond hearing, this is the moment to unmute and start your video.
Can you, I'm trying to start my video. I
Right.
don't know.
As soon as you start your video, you can resume. All right. While we are waiting for Mr. Bakari to start his video. Yes, Ms. Duncan?
I was just gonna say that the victim in this case appears to be on the call. And given the violent nature, we will request that a signature bond not be granted.
All right. Well, I don't know who is on the call. All I have is a name Bakari on it. So how's the video thing going?
It asked them to start their video. I don't know what's going on with their.
All right, thank you. Okay, with regards to Rakia Mose, the bond is going to be set at $3,500. It's going to be a signature bond through pretrial services. No further contact with Bakari Simmons to stay away from 6888 Roswell Road in Sandy Springs, the entire complex, unless Mr. Bakari Simmons vacates the premises. So Ms. Mose can return to the apartment one time only with a police officer to either verify that Mr. Simmons has vacated the premises.
I'm here. I'm here, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Simmons, if you please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, Your Honor.
Are you on the lease at 6888 Roswell Road?
No, Your Honor, I am not, but I helped her get in the house and I helped pay the rent as well. We
How
pay
long
the
have
rent
you been
together.
living there?
We've been living here together for 5 months.
Okay.
The incident,
Yeah, go ahead.
the incident yesterday, I broke her Amazon thing and she was mad about it. I was going downstairs to tell her basically that I was gonna buy her a new one. And she was angry about it, but it was nothing crazy. Like we don't have any domestic disputes. We've never hit each other. We don't fight like that. We might throw things at each other or anything like that, but it's nothing serious. Like it's nothing. Like I love this girl. I'm going to marry
Mr.
this girl.
Simmons, let's get two things straight. Number one, someone was arrested.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
it has gone beyond simple and it has become serious.
No,
Number two, the decision to prosecute this case is not with you, it's with the prosecutor.
I know.
You do?
Yes,
All right.
I just want to inform you of what happened.
I'm not interested in the allegations. I'm more interested in the fact that she's been arrested and that she will have to comply with the conditions of the bond.
I didn't hear the conditions of the bond. So
okay, do you have anything else to add before I continue with the conditions of the bond?
yeah, I promote the signature on bond. I heard that part. The signature on bond. I was gonna go pick her up. Like we live together. Like I love this woman.
Not anymore. Not anymore. You're not living with her until further order of the court.
Oh wow.
Yep, that's why it becomes serious. Okay, as I was saying, no further contact with Bakari Simmons until further order of the court, to stay 200 yards away, to not communicate with him in any way, form, or manner. If there is any future communication and the police get involved again, the person coming back to jail will be Rakia Mose, and most likely with no bond. To stay away from 6888 Roswell Road in Sandy Springs, Georgia. She may go to the location one time only with a police officer to retrieve her personal belongings. Within 30 days of being released, Ms. Moses will update the court with her new address so we can send her notice of her next court date. While she's out on a signature bond through pretrial, she will report to pretrial once a month. She will complete a one-day anger awareness program through pretrial services. And she's not to consume any illegal drugs and no alcohol and not possess any weapons or any firearms. As she is not living at the apartment complex in question, then the decision to contribute to the rent will be entirely up to Ms. Moses, whatever she decides to do. Her next court date will be sent to her new address. And if the solicitor's office, upon further interviews with Mr. Simmons, decides that they would have no objection and convert the contact to no further violent contact and allow Ms. Moses to return to the home, then they would need to file the appropriate motion. All right, that concludes this hearing. And yes, Ms. Kim?
Your Honor, I would like to clarify one thing. So if Mr. Bakari moves out, my client can move in to her home, right?
Well, according to him, he's a legal occupant of the premises. So in order for him to leave, it either has to be done voluntarily or she has to file a dispossessory action against him.
I'll leave now.
That's entirely up to you.
Okay.
But Ms. Moses still can only return with a police officer. If it's confirmed that Mr. Simmons does not live there, then she can resume residence there.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, thank you.
And this is per judge.
Yes. Good job. We'll write that down. All right, next case, please.
Your Honor, that was through pretrial, correct?
Yes, that's correct, officer. That's
Thank
correct.
And if I may, Your Honor, I just want to clarify that at any time while this defendant is on bond, if Mr. Simmons does reside at that location, he has the lawful right to do so, correct?
He has right now the lawful right to do so, but if he vacates the premises, like I said, it's entirely voluntary.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next case, Courtroom 2 or Courtroom 3?
We have position number 1, Mr. Lamar Allen.
Lamar Allen's case number is 22 CR 004-341J. Mr. Allen's been charged with obstruction of an officer and disorderly conduct from July 6, 2022. Mr. Allen, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Ms. Wanda Gant. Ms. Bacchus, excuse me, Mr. Tucson?
27 total between Georgia and Texas. You got to open obstruction, simple battery. Last arrest was in January for obstruction and simple battery. Got to open negotiating fictitious check, forgery, 4th degree, deposit account fraud, theft by taking. Got armed robbery out of the cab, shoplifting as well.
Is that an open case, the armed robbery?
It's under the open section. Yes, it's criminal attempt to commit armed robbery. 2019. Yeah, it's open. That and the shoplifting. 2018 FTA for the negotiating a fictitious check.
And that is good. Thank you. Ms. Bacchus, what's your recommendation for these 2 new charges?
Your Honor, the state's recommendation is a $2,000 surety bond, $1,000 on each count, a stay away from the incident location, no further contact with the victim, or I guess the officer, and a stay away from the incident location, which is 285 Andrew Young International Boulevard. Basically, Your Honor, the defendant in this case acted in a violent manner towards the victim, Mr. Chavis Latham. Chavis is spelled Chavais, Latham, Latham. Mr. Latham was in fear for his safety while he was conducting patrol of the property. He encountered the defendant sleeping on the steps, and he asked the defendant to leave the property, at which time he began acting in an irate manner. And then the defendant began to walk towards Officer Latham while yelling profanities and threatening comments at him. Then the officer tried to detain him, but he refused. When the officer tried to put his hands behind his back, snatched away, and he wasn't successful in that moment of detaining him. As you heard, Your Honor, that he has an extensive history with the open one from January. He knows the system. He obviously does not abide by the law or heed the court's instructions. And so honestly, I feel that, or the state feels that $2,000 is more than an appropriate bond for this case. So nothing further, Your Honor.
Thank you. Ms. Gant?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Lamar Allen is 35 years old. He has been in the Atlanta area for 5 years. He has his father here along with some aunts and uncles. However, they are not able to provide any assistance to Mr. Allen at this time. Your Honor, we are unopposed to the stay away at the incident location. Mr. Allen completed 12th grade. He is unemployed and has been so for the past 2 years. He believes that he is disabled. He has applied for Social Security. His, I guess the decision is pending. He is residentially challenged. We are taking steps to connect him with services, Your Honor. He denies the allegations, and despite my client's history, I would just ask that based on his resources and the ability to pay $2,000 is really the same as no bond for him. I am requesting a signature bond, and if Your Honor is not so inclined, then I would ask for a bond of no more than $200. That would be $100 for each offense. Thank you, and we are unopposed to the stay away and the no contact orders. Thank you.
All right, it's under $250 per count. Total bond is set at $500. It is a surety bond. Next court date is July 21st. And to stay away from the GWCCA building at Andrew Young International Boulevard. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Position number 7 in courtroom 3, please.
Okay, Tracy Lynn Johnston in courtroom number 3 is accused of battery, domestic violence from July 6, 2022. Ms. Johnston's case number is 22 CR 0043458. Ms. Johnston, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney will be Ms. Wanda Gant. And
no, Your Honor, it will be me.
Oh, Ms. McLeod? Oh, okay. Is
Yes,
there any
Your
3
Honor.
o'clock? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, thank you. Ms. Johnston, your attorney's name is Maureen McLeod. And we will proceed with your GCIC. Yes, Mr. Tucson?
Second arrest, 2004 battery / simple battery.
What year was that? I'm sorry?
2004.
2000. Okay,
She got PTI.
thank you. Ms. Bacchus? Oh, is it Ms. Bacchus? Or-
Yes, it is. I'm sorry. I was on mute. The state is recommending a $3,000 surety bond, a stay away from the incident location, no further contact with the victim, and no alcohol, drugs, or weapons. This incident occurred yesterday. Officer responded to a domestic dispute call at 1020 Celebration Drive. Upon arrival, officer spoke with the victim, Kevin Butler, as well as with the defendant. Mr. Butler advised that he and the defendant were arguing approximately 1 hour before this incident occurred. Mr. Butler was trying to leave the residence, but the defendant would not let him leave. And so Mr. Butler advised that he'd been living in the residence for approximately 1 month. And I believe that's the defendant had been living in the home with Mr. Butler for 1 month. He also said that officers, 1 second, Your Honor. Oh, these two parties, the victim and the defendant, are also engaged according to the victim. Mr. Butler told officers that the defendant had been drinking alcohol throughout the day. Mr. Butler also stated that the altercation went from verbal to physical as he was attempting to leave the house, at which time the defendant ripped his shirt. Officers did visibly observe the ripped shirt. He also said that the defendant open hand slapped him in the face and was grabbing at his neck. The defendant also ripped the necklaces off of the victim's neck, which the officer saw the 2 broken necklaces as well. Officers also observed a red scratch on the left side of Mr. Butler's cheek. And Mr. Butler stated that the defendant bit him on his right hand, which the officers did observe the injury to Mr. Butler's right hand that corroborated his testimony. The defendant told officers that the argument began because he didn't really like the way that Mr. Butler was treating him. Apparently the altercation did get physical, and the defendant basically admitted to the fact that this incident did occur, and that there were cuts on the defendant's hand as well, but she said that she wasn't sure how she got them, right? And so she believes that it got cut on the stairwell. The officers did speak with the defendant's daughter, who said that she saw some of the incident occur and did observe the defendant slap Mr. Butler in the face and attempt to bite him. Based on, I guess, speaking with the victim earlier today, the victim and the defendant are in a relationship. They stay together on and off, but they have their own residences. The incident location is the defendant's home. So I apologize from earlier. It is the defendant's home, and the victim stated that the defendant has a drinking problem and was drinking at the time of the incident. And so, Your Honor, again, the $3,000 surety, stay away, no further contact, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons is our recommendation, and we feel that it is more than appropriate. Nothing further from the state.
All right, thank you.
Your Honor, my
yes,
client
Ms.
is
McLeod. I'm sorry.
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
My client is 51 years old. As Prishala said, that she had a previous incident, which is very remote. It happened in 2004, which is approximately 18 years ago. Since then, she has been a model citizen. She tells me that she's a caretaker for her 19-year-old daughter who lives with her and suffers from PTSD. And primarily what she does is take care of her daughter. She does admit that, she got into an altercation with her fiance. She says it was a lapse in judgment because she had been drinking, and she admits that. She is very remorseful about what happened, Your Honor. Based on the fact that she has no significant history, something that was in diversion almost 20 years ago, I think she is a good candidate for a signature bond, and I would ask the court to consider giving her that signature bond. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. I don't see Mr. Butler on the Zoom, so I'm just going to assume, I don't know what to assume, but at the present time, what I can say is that her bond.
Your Honor.
Yeah.
My apologies. He did say that he did not want to be on the Zoom, so he's not here.
Okay.
Okay.
Did he say whether he was planning to remain at the Celebration Drive location?
Your Honor, that is my client's home.
That
and
is,
he has his own
I
home.
know. I just want to know whether he's planning to leave, because apparently he was trying to leave.
He's leaving. He's not going to be there.
All right, sounds good. Thank you. Bond for this particular case, Ms. Johnson, is going to be $3,500. That's going to be a signature bond through pretrial services. No contact with Mr. Kevin Butler until further order of the court. She may return to the 1020 Celebration Drive in Roswell, Georgia, as long as Mr. Butler no longer resides at the location, because she has to stay 200 yards away from him and not communicate with him in any way, form, or manner, including in person, through a phone, through a computer, or something. If he reaches out to her, she's under a court order now to make sure that she does not communicate with him or respond to his communication. She is not to consume any illegal drugs, no alcohol, and not possess any weapons or any firearms. So if she owns any, they need to be surrendered to the authorities or kept in a safe deposit box. Ms. Johnston will also undergo an alcohol and drug evaluation through a qualified provider. And if any treatment is required, she's to submit herself to said treatment. Her next court date will be sent to her at the Celebration Drive address. Unless, of course, Mr. Butler is still occupying the property, then she will have to give us a new address because she can't live with him under the same roof. All right. Any questions, Ms. McLeod?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you.
Was that anger awareness?
Oh, yes. And a one-day anger awareness program. Thank you.
Well, I'm just asking. I didn't want you to give it to her, though, on my behalf. I was just asking.
I think it's an excellent idea. Thank you, Tucson. Yes, one-day anger awareness. All right, courtroom 2, who do we have, please?
We have position number 5, Ms. Jelani Hall.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. This is State versus Jelani Sailor Hall, case number 22 CR 004-343E. Mr. Hall has been accused of battery, domestic violence, from June 24th, 2021. Mr. Hall, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Ms. Wanda Gant.
No, it's me, Your Honor.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. McLeod. Okay, sorry about that.
Your Honor, we
First
did
arrest.
request a breakout for this position.
All right, I will address Mr. Hall's case towards the end of the calendar. Deputy, may we have another case?
Your Honor, what was that? You said go to the next case?
Yes, Mr. Hall's case, we need to be in a breakout, so I will address that later.
We can go to position number 9.
Thank you.
Mr. Mapson.
All right. Is that your case, Ms. Gant or Ms. Kim?
It's mine, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. McLeod.
Yes, Your Honor.
Striking 3 times out now with you. Okay, let's see if I can get anything else right. Okay. Tyrone Martise Mapson has been accused of simple battery domestic violence from a June 11th, 2021 incident. The accusation number is 22 CR 004347F. Mr. Mapson, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your counsel is going to be Ms. Maureen McLeod. Mr. Tucson, any priors, please?
I think I counted about 14 between Georgia and South Carolina.
Okay. 14
Last arrest.
cycles, all right.
Yes. Got a 2018 battery DV conviction. That's 19 CR 006398C. I came off a 2018 arrest. I got 2014 FTA for marijuana and suspended license. 2010 simple battery and hindering person from making 911 call. Those are dead docket. And he has open simple battery, DV, and cruelty to children out of DeKalb County. That came off of July 4th. I'm sorry, Clayton County, my bad. And he was arrested Monday for that, in Clayton County. That's it.
Thank you.
Oh, and the South Carolina, that was last arrest, that was 03. But it was domestic violence as well.
All right, thank you. Ms. Barkis?
Your Honor, the state's recommendation is going to be a $5,000 cash bond. Stay away from the incident location. No further contact with the victim, Miss Katrina Barton, and no alcohol, drugs, or weapons while out on bond. This incident actually occurred on June 11, 2021. An officer responded to 5495 Old National Highway in reference to a domestic dispute call. Upon arrival, officer met with the caller, who's the same person as the victim, Miss Katrina Barton, who advised that her husband pretty much battered her in the parking lot of the incident location. Ms. Barton stated her and the defendant were arguing, and things turned physical when he struck her multiple times in the face and the head with a closed fist. Ms. Barton advised that she was punched in the face and the back of the head. And then the defendant got into his vehicle and left the location. Mr. Barton and the defendant have a previous domestic violence cycle. The 2013 simple battery family violence was the same victim. As pretrial said, there's a 2018 simple assault family violence. I was unable to, I did make a call, but I was unable to find out if that was the same victim. And then the one from March of 2022, which was, oh, well, this might be, okay. So we've got 2003 and 2005, which are criminal domestic violence charges, as well as the open case, or the case that happened 2 days before this incident. I did call Clayton County. They said that they have the incident in their system. They haven't accused it yet. And so they weren't able to give me a lot of information. But either way, Your Honor, this defendant has 14 cycles. He is no stranger to the court system. And he obviously has no problem reoffending with these violent offenses, right? So we're concerned about this victim, Miss Katrina Barton, and the children, as there's a cruelty to children out as well, Your Honor. And so we are asking for that $5,000 cash, stay away, no further contact, and no alcohol, drugs, or weapons. Thank you, Your Honor.
You're talking about the cruelty charge in Clayton County? Because there isn't one here. Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Barkis. All right. We don't have a cruelty charge here. This is simple battery. And
Your Honor, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my apologies. I think my internet connection was lost. No, the battery, family violence, and cruelty are in Clayton County. They're not in Fulton.
All right, but we don't know who the alleged victim is in that case.
We do not. We do.
Okay.
I'm highlighting the violent nature in his history.
Got it. Okay, Ms. McLeod?
Yes, Your Honor. My client is 44 years old. He has some college education and he has been living in the Metro Atlanta area since 2004. He is married to the alleged victim and they share 3 minor children, a 7-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 13-year-old. My client is also a disabled veteran, Your Honor.
Yes, so I see your hand up and I'll let you have a comment, but you can put your hand down right now. Thank you. Sorry about that, Ms. McLeod.
That's okay, Your Honor.
Yes, you were saying he was a...
Yes, he's a disabled veteran. He does share 3 minor children with the alleged victim. This incident apparently happened some time ago, almost a year ago. My client tells me that they still live together, he and the alleged victim, and share these children. So I just wanted the court to note that this is a fairly remote incident. He was arrested on a warrant. This was not something that happened recently. He tells me that even though he's disabled, he does work sometimes part-time as an accountant.
I see. Thank you.
Yes, I would ask the court, if the court is not inclined to give it a signature bond, which given his history, the court may not want to do, I would ask the court to consider giving him as low a bond as possible so that he can get out of jail.
Your Honor.
Yes.
No, just to follow up, I do understand that it happened in 2021. But I also understand that his history is indicative of the fact that he has a problem with battering people and using violence. And so, as the state stated, we still feel as though a surety bond is appropriate. Nothing further, Your Honor.
As I was saying, bond is set at $7,500. This is going to be a surety bond. No further contact with Katrina Barton. He's to stay 200 yards away from her, not return to the marital home. He has to stay away from 5495 Old. I'm assuming that's the marital home, or maybe I've got that wrong. No, that was just the incident location. So wherever Miss Barton lives, he has to stay away from that location. I don't know if that's at Fairway Court in Riverdale or wherever she happens to live. He cannot be living under the same roof with her. No alcohol, no illegal drugs, no weapons. He's to, and I believe that was it. His next court date will be July 21st. Any contact with the minor children that he shares with Ms. Barton would have to be done through a third party neutral. So Miss Katrina Barton won't be doing any transfer or anything like that. They would have to select a third party who will be able to pick up the children and return them at the appropriate time. All right. Mr. Mapson, you have a right to remain silent. Anything you say about the facts of the case, your statements can and will be used against you. So I'm hoping that you only have a question about your bond.
Well, ma'am, I want to state what's important is I was home all 2021 with my children. My wife committed adultery on me. She was not in the house with anyone else. So when I on the family cruelty to children, I had spanked my little girl, and she.
All right. At this point, Mr. Mapson, if you want to address open cases, I would like to remind you that this is a formal court proceeding, and prosecutors can get a copy of it and use it against you. So if you want to make any admissions right now, that's only going to harm your open cases.
Well, she wasn't home. I was home with the kids at 9102 Fairway Court.
Mr. Mapson, we are only here to address the issue of your bond, and the court has already ruled on that.
Yes,
so my advice to you would be not to discuss your other cases.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
July 21st is his next court date. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Next case, courtroom
Your
2.
Honor, my apologies. I don't mean to interrupt, but for position 11, if he's still in the courtroom, the state would like for him to formally accept the plea. It was our understanding that Ms. Kim is not representing him under this plea. So we want to make sure that on record, he's accepting the
Okay.
plea on his own regard, knowing and willing.
Mr. Dorian McDowell.
Your Honor, he's in the back. I'll have to go get him. Can we just go to position 18?
Yeah.
While I get him?
Ms. Duncan, I have no reason to say that he's not accepting the plea. So go ahead and email the documents. He can always change his mind later on. I have no control over that part. But I cannot allow for additional delays.
Okay, I understand, Your Honor. I just want to perfect the record, and I wanted to have it on record that the state was requesting him accepting the plea on his own accord without representation.
Definitely noted. Thank you. Who do we have in the red shirt?
There's Mr. McDowell.
All right, Mr. McDowell, my name is Judge Law. We are addressing your case again. Do you formally want to enter a plea in exchange for a time-served sentence? No, I think the screen froze. No, Ms. Duncan, this is just not a good day for Zoom, is it?
No, unfortunately, but that's the world we live in now, Your Honor.
All right, courtroom 2, again.
We froze, Your Honor. I'm sorry.
That's okay, that's okay. Does Mr. McDowell formally want to enter a plea of guilty or no contest to the charges of obtaining unlawful entry into murder and obstruction of a law enforcement officer in exchange for a time-served plea sentence?
Yes.
Was that a yes?
Yes, Judge.
All right, so as soon as you get your documents, review it, initial all the appropriate places and sign off on it. Make sure you understand what you are agreeing to. Thank you. All right, the gentleman in the red shirt, may we speak with him?
It's position number 18, Mr. Willis.
Thank you. State versus Demorio Antonio Willis, 22 CR 004-356J. Mr. Willis has been accused of simple battery domestic violence from a March 18th, 2022 incident. Mr. Willis, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Miss Miss J. Kim. Any priors, Mr. Tucson?
This is 8th arrest. Last arrest was December 2021. That's opening Judge Besson, 21 CR 007-277J. November 2021, Gwinnett County, simple battery DV. It was amended from a battery DV and the cruelty in the third. The cruelty was dismissed. I don't see the disposition for the simple battery.
Okay.
Hold on. 2013 battery DV, simple battery, and hindering. Those were dismissed out of Gwinnett. Had a 07 criminal damage, second degree. It was it says record restricted. So he's not recommended due to the open case.
All right, thank you. Ms. Duncan?
Your Honor, in this case, he does in fact have the open simple battery family violence. That is against a different victim, Ms. Cassandra Willis, his wife. This incident occurred This incident occurred on March 18th, 2022 at 980 Constitution Road Southeast. The victim in this case is Ms. Tralicia Williams, Tralicia Williams, common spelling. She is a parent of the same child as the defendant in this case, Your Honor. Ms. Williams returned to her residence to find the defendant there. He was irate, very irate, and cursing at her. She did not get out of her vehicle. She stated to officers that he was not supposed to be there due to previous trouble he had caused at her residence. However, Ms. Williams stated that because of the previous incidences with Mr. Williams, she called her father and put him on speakerphone so that he could hear what was happening to her. So she let down the window a little bit so that her father could hear what Mr. Willis was saying to her, and as she let down the window, Your Honor, the defendant in this case spit through the opening in the window, and the spit from his mouth landed on her face, Your Honor. This victim has indicated that she has had several instances with this defendant, and she was later advised to file a TPO in Gwinnett County, which is where he lives. However, she reported to our victim advocate that when she went to try to file a TPO, they advised that it would be better for no contact because they have a child. So she received some paperwork that stated that he was not supposed to be contacting her 3 days after this incident. And he continued to violate that after that by calling and texting her. She stated to our victim advocate that he also called her from jail yesterday, but she hung up the phone. She said that she wants no contact with this victim, with him or her child. She doesn't want him to have contact with him or her child and to stay away from her residence. Given this defendant's violent history, we are concerned about the risk of reoffense here, given he does have open violent cases and previous violence cases. Even though they were not against this victim, they were against his wife, who was another woman involved with him in some sort of way. So it shows a pattern of violence against women, and we have a concern there with intimidation, given that he tends to show up at her residence unprovoked and unannounced and commit violent offenses against her. We are also concerned that he's a general danger to the community because he was spitting on people at a time in our world's history where it was not safe to do so. So in that essence, Your Honor, given the facts and the other factors present and the wishes of the victim, we're going to request a bond in the amount of $3,000 surety, no further contact with the victim, no further contact with the child that they share, but stay away from the incident location, which is the home of the victim. 1 day anger awareness, no alcohol, drugs, and weapons, and no further violations of Georgia law.
All right. And I'm sorry, you said you wanted him to have no contact with Ms. Williams and with the minor identified as MW?
Correct.
Okay.
All these incidences, the spitting and the violent cursing and things like that were witnessed by this child.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Kim?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Willis is married and he's 37 years old. He has 5 other children. He's a father, and his mother passed away last year, and he is self-employed. He has a used car business, and he also has a nonprofit organization. He has a bachelor's degree for mass communication as well. He claims that she was the initial aggressor in this case, and we would like to clarify, he wanted to clarify that part. We do not object to stay away or no further contact, and yet for the child, we would like to request for a third-party transfer, and that's about it, Your Honor. Unless, yeah, that's it. We would like to ask for $1,000 maximum surety bond. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I see a Trelicia Williams.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Williams, if you'd like to say something, number one, you need to stop moving around. And number two, may I place you under oath?
Okay. Yes, I was
May I
not.
place you under oath?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
May I place you under oath?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Are you married to Demorio Willis?
No, ma'am.
All right. And is your child MW? Is that Mr. Demorio's son?
No, that's from a previous relationship.
Okay. All right. And what else would you like to tell me about? We are doing a bond hearing right now. So anything else you'd like to add?
Yes, this whole situation, it arises from him being in another relationship with his wife, and they still stay together. There's no way that he can have my child because he has nowhere to take her, for one, and for two, I tried the co-parent situation like I do with my 13-year-old. Me and his father don't have any issues. But with him, if he doesn't get his way, he gets very violent.
All right, so you do have a child with him?
I do. My
And
last
what are the initials of that child?
AW, Armani Willett.
I just need the initials.
AW, I'm sorry.
AW. MW is not his child, correct?
MW, no, that's my older.
All right. Have you received a TPO or a protective order from Gwinnett?
No, ma'am. They actually gave me another route to take.
Okay.
They involved, so I took that route, but he didn't honor it.
All righty. Sounds good. Okay, thank you, Ms. Williams. Okay. Mr. Willis, your bond is going to be set at $4,500, and that's going to be a surety bond. You are to have no further contact with Trelicia Williams. You are to have no further contact with her children, including AW. If you wish to have contact or joint custody with AW, you will file the appropriate legitimation action in Superior Court and get a court order to establish visitation and custody as well as child support. You are to stay 200 yards away from Ms. Williams. You're not to be seen anywhere near her home, her place of employment, anywhere where her person happens to be. You're also not to contact her via social media, not through a third party, not through any phones, and definitely not through any kind of computer device. The phone systems at the jail are monitored, and if it's discovered that you are attempting to reach Ms. Williams through directly or through a third party, the prosecutors, all they have to do is testify to that effect, and you could be charged with aggravated stalking, which it carries no bond and is a felony charge. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons, and no firearms. And if you do make bond, I'm going to require you to be equipped with an ankle monitoring device, and that you will be paying the monthly monitoring services with regards to making sure that you comply with the yardage restriction. Yes, sir. Do you have a question about the bond?
Yes, I do. I thought I heard you say 3,000 at first.
No, that's what the prosecution recommended. The court has the discretion to increase it or decrease it, or give you a signature bond or a surety bond or a cash bond. Okay. And I'm just looking at the previous case. You were already advised how to comply with bonds with respect to domestic violence cases. And well, as you can see, I'm rather disappointed.
Yeah, and then I want to clarify.
Mr. Willis, you have every right to remain silent. I strongly recommend you to stay silent.
Oh, unless he has a question about his bond, I'll be glad to answer. That can't be held against him. Do you have a question about your bond?
Oh, no, I was gonna clarify about the videos.
No, that's something that your attorney will bring forward.
Okay, all right.
All right, thank you. His next court date is going to be July 21st.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. All right, Courtroom 2, do we have another case, please?
The only two cases we have left, Your Honor, are the plea case and the two breakouts.
Two breakouts, okay. Let's do the first breakout, and which one would that be?
We could do position number 4, Mr. Dickens.
All right, is that a breakout case?
My apologies, Your Honor. Is there an announcement for position 17?
We said earlier, we said 17?
Yes.
Position 17 is here at the South Annex, Your Honor.
Oh, okay. We will get back to the breakout case very shortly. Deputy Milton, are you ready with 17?
Your Honor,
Yes.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Michelle
Yes.
McCutcheon for the state. I'm good afternoon. I'm going to assist Ms. Duncan with the breakout room, but as well as with the plea. Which deputy should we send the plea paperwork to?
Katrina Lewis, I believe.
Ms. Lewis, okay.
Yeah. All right.
At the jail, we need to send it to the deputy for the defendant to complete it, correct?
Yes, and I'm assuming Officer Matthew, is that Officer Matthew or Officer Norris would be able to, if y'all could put the email in the
Yes.
chat.
Please, thank you.
I just need the paperwork once it's signed.
Right, Ms. Lewis, I just sent you an email asking you for the name of the deputy if you
Oh,
knew.
I don't know who's working in the courtroom at the time.
All right, thank you.
Courtroom Two, is it Officer Deputy? Could you identify yourself?
It's Norris. I'm sorry, Your
It's
Honor.
Officer Norris. So
Yeah.
if you can put your email in the chat to ASG McCutcheon, she'll be able to send you paperwork for Mr. McDowell.
Oh, I'm not gonna put my name in the chat.
No. You just put it directly to Ms.
To me.
McCutcheon. It's
No.
not going to be
No.
broadcasted.
When I put
Norris, I'll call you and get it. I'll call you. I'll get it for
Thank
y'all. I'll get it.
Thank you.
You want me to send it to you, Mr. Howard?
Go ahead. Okay.
No,
South Annex.
I got
we
it.
have- Thank you, Tucson. Thank you. We have State versus Michelle Montina Whitaker, case number 22 CR 004-355Y. Ms. Whitaker has been accused of battery, domestic violence from a July 6, 2022 incident. Ms. Whitaker, you have a right to remain silent. Anything you say in open court, your statements can and will be used against you. You have a right to an attorney, and representing you is going to be Ms. Kim. Mr. Tucson, any priors with regards to Ms. Whitaker?
It's a second arrest. Hold on. 2018 was the last for suspend the license out of Union City.
All right, thank you. Ms. Duncan?
Your Honor, in this case, the state just wants to make it known that this defendant does have several aliases, and upon doing further research, there was another name associated with the defendant where there was a significant difference in criminal history. In this case particularly, it occurred yesterday at 2929 Landrum Drive Southwest, apartment J66, where the defendant battered the victim, in this case, DeMarco Gomez, DEMARCO Gomez. In this case, Your Honor, officers were dispatched to that location in reference to a dispute. They met with Mr. Gomez in the front of the building. As officers were exiting their patrol vehicles, they were able to observe visible injuries that looked like fingernail marks on Mr. Gomez's neck, collarbone, and right shoulder. They indicated that Mr. Gomez is light-skinned and that the injuries were very pronounced. They also noted a scratch on his shoulder that was bleeding slightly. He said that he was involved in a physical dispute with his two children's mother and that they live in the same address. He stated that she had been drinking alcohol and was confrontational the moment he got home from work from out of town. He said a verbal altercation ensued pertaining to bills and became physical, where the defendant punched him in the face with a closed right hand. And after speaking with the defendant in this case, officers determined that she was in fact the primary aggressor in this case. She did state to officers that she was attacked. However, they did not see any injuries to that effect. The only injury that they did see was bruising to her fist. And she stated that she was using her foot to keep him from attacking her. And she stated that his injuries must be self-inflicted. At that time, officers made that determination and they placed the defendant under arrest. I just wanted to state for the record, we have a concern here about the risk of reoffense, given that this offense occurred less than no more than 24 hours ago. Intimidation here, Your Honor, they do live together and they are in a relationship. There are children involved. According to my research with another name that is associated with this defendant, there is a battery family violence arrest from 2005, as well as others. So given the nature of this offense, we're going to request a $3,500 surety bond. No further contact with the victim in this case. We request third-party child contact, stay away from the incident location, one-day anger awareness, and no further violations of Georgia law. Nothing further from the state.
Thank you. Ms. Kim?
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Whitaker is 37 years old and she has lived here in Georgia all her life. She has 4 children total, including 2 children that complaining witness has together. She has those 4 children, all minors, and she has not had her job ever since April 2022. Before that, there was a long personal leave of absence because of COVID-19. So she's not financially stable at this point. That's why she was getting really upset with the complaining witness. Her name is on the lease. That location is her place, and he's not on the lease. So we would like to request one time escorted visit to verify that he is no longer there. And if he's not there, I would like to ask my client to be able to go back her home. And she has served Army for about 7 years, and she's discharged from the Army 2011. We would like to request for signature on bond, and indeed pretrial services recommended for unsecured judicial relief. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Bond is set at $3,000. It's going to be a signature bond through pretrial services. No further contact with DeMarco Gomez. And she's going to have to stay away from 2929 Landrum Drive in Atlanta, Georgia. If she can return to the location one time only with a police officer to either retrieve her belongings, and then she'll need to update the court with a new address within 30 days of release, or she can verify that Mr. Gomez has vacated the premises, and if he has vacated the premises, then she can return to the location. If the children have not been legitimated, the children may live with her since she is the primary custodial, the only custodial parent, unless Mr. Gomez has legitimated the children. But otherwise, if he has not, then she is responsible for the children in question, and she would need to have to find separate housing. The decision to continue paying rent on that lease, if Mr. Gomez continues at the property, would be entirely up to her. Next court date will be sent to her new address, which she will have to update the court within 30 days, or to the Landrum Drive location if Mr. Gomez no longer lives there. Thank you. Oh, and also to attend and complete a one-day anger awareness program, no alcohol, drugs, and weapons. Yes, Ms. Whitaker?
I just wanted to address the alias. My cousin stole my identity.
No, please.
That has nothing to do with your bond.
He said I got arrested in 2005 and I didn't.
And that's why you're going to speak to your attorney, Ms. Kim, and clarify your record, but this is not the time to discuss it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Deputy Milton, do we have another case?
Yes, you're on the position 8, Ms. Kincaid.
Thank you. Dorian Kincaid, case number 22 CR 004346F, is accused of criminal trespass causing damage to property on July 6, 2022. Ms. Kincaid, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Anything you say in open court, your statements can and will be used against you. You have a right to an attorney, and you're going to be represented by Ms. Wanda Gannett. Any priors, Mr. Toussaint?
No.
Thank you. Ms. Bacchus?
Your Honor, this incident occurred yesterday. Officers, looks like they responded to a fight in progress call at 2166 Larchwood Road in Atlanta. Upon arrival, the officer spoke with the caller, Tony Lidge. Lidge is spelled L-I-D-G-E, who stated that him and the defendant were in a verbal dispute when the defendant became irate and started throwing things in the home. Mr. Lidge then went outside and sat in his car. And while sitting in his car, the defendant came outside and began striking the vehicle with a glass bottle, which caused a dent on the trunk. When officers spoke with the defendant, he stated that this all began because Mr. Lidge went through his phone and found out he was speaking to his ex-girlfriend. He stated that they then got into the argument, which caused Mr. Lidge to go sit in the car. And the defendant did admit to the officers that while inside of the house blowing off steam, he trashed the house. But then he began to clean up after himself, and then he decided to go check the mail. But when he came back and found that the door was locked, that's what kind of incensed him. And at that point, he got upset and he struck the vehicle with the bottle because he was locked out. And the officer did observe a dent on the trunk Your Honor, we are aware that this is the first arrest. So where the state is asking for recommending a $2,000 signature bond, a stay away from that incident location, no further violent contact with the victim, and no alcohol, drugs, or weapon while out on bond. Nothing further from the state.
All right, Ms. Kent.
Thank you, Your Honor. Dorian Kincaid prefers pronouns he, him, and his. Your Honor, he is 28 years old. He has been in the Atlanta, Georgia area for 3 years. He does have family here. His foster mother, however, he informs me that he is not in contact with her. Your Honor, we are opposed to the stay away at the incident location. I did have the occasion to reach out to Mr. Lidge. He wants to continue having contact with my client. That is what he informed me. He states that he is on the Zoom call. I did not see him. So I would ask that Your Honor sound for him. Mr. Kincaid completed high school. He also has college credits, 2 years in architecture and construction management. At this time, he is unemployed, Your Honor. He informs me that he is 3 months pregnant. The father of his child is Mr. Ledge, and he was ordered to not continue working because of the nature of his work, Your Honor. He tells me that he is still having motion sickness and that interferes with his ability to work. My client is presumed innocent. He denies the allegations. We are unopposed to the signature bond. And Your Honor, we would ask that Your Honor grant a no violent contact order. And my client informs me that he does not have an alternate residence, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right. Bond is set at $2,500 as a signature bond through pretrial services. He must have no further violent contact with Tony Lidge. He may return to 2166 was it Larchwood?
Larchwood, correct, Your Honor.
Larchwood Road in Atlanta, Georgia. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons, and no firearms. He will report to pretrial once a month. He will attend and complete a one-day anger awareness program. And if there are any future altercations that the police get involved, the first person back in jail is going to be Dorian Kincaid. Next court date will be sent to the Larchwood Road location. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
What's the last statement that you made?
If there are any further future altercations with Mr. Lidge, the first person that's most likely to be arrested is Dorian Kincaid.
Okay, thank you. I thought I heard next court date, Larchwood.
The next court date will be sent, the notice for the next court date will be sent to the Larchwood location.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor.
Yeah. All right.
May we be excused, Your Honor?
Yes, thank you, Deputy Milton. I'm just going to address my 2 cases in the breakout.
Your Honor, did you need to talk to me?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Just on the last one, was that no further violent contact or no further contact?
No further violent contact with Tony Lidge.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, breakout room will be with me and Ms. McCutcheon, and we are going to address Christopher Dickens. So that will be Ms. Wanda Gant and Ms. Bacchus.
Ms. McLeod, she just went in.
All right, we are back with Courtroom Two, I believe, and the first case we are going to address is Christopher Dickens, 22 CR 004-342G. Officer Norris? Officer Francois?
Yes.
Okay, you're addressing Mr. Dickens.
Yep.
I've already had a sidebar with the attorneys involved. Mr. Dickens, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is Ms. Wanda Gant. And This is, I'm so sorry, one again, and what did I want? Oh, Mr. Tucson, yes. Do you have a report on Christopher Demont Dickens?
We know you were there, how long?
This is second arrest. Last was June 2021 battery DV. So you got to open simple battery and battery out of Clayton County.
All right, thank you. With regards to the simple battery domestic violence, the bond is going to be set at $1,500. That's going to be a surety bond. No further contact with Jacqueline Martin to stay away from 814 Chattahoochee Circle in Atlanta, Georgia. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons, and no firearms. And Mr. Dickens, you're going to be medically compliant with any prescription treatment that you're receiving. No further contact with Jacqueline Martin means staying 200 yards away from her and not communicating with her either in person or through any indirect means, including a third party or social media. Your next court date is going to be July 21st. Thank you.
Your Honor, I do apologize. I lost internet connectivity. I did not hear the bond and conditions.
1,500 surety, no further contact with Jacqueline Martin. Stay away from 814 Chattahoochee Circle. He will need to, his next court date is July 21st. If he makes bond, he has to update the court with his new address within 30 days of being released. He is not to consume any illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons, and no firearms. And he's to be medically compliant with any treatment that he's receiving.
And Your Honor, may you add a one-time law enforcement escort?
He may return to the location one time only with a police officer to retrieve his personal belongings. That visit cannot exceed 2 hours. All right. Next, thank you.
All right, you done? Come on.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Next, we got position 5, Hall.
Yes. We have Mr. Jelani Sailor Hall and Mr. Tucson. Any priors, please? Position 5.
First arrest.
All right. Mr. Hall, you've been advised, your case number is 22 CR 004343E. You've been accused of battery domestic violence, although you were originally arrested on simple battery domestic violence from a June 24th, 2021 incident. You've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Ms. Maureen McLeod. Based on the conference I've had with the attorneys of this particular case, your bond is going to be set at $3,000. It's going to be a signature bond through pretrial services, and he's going to be co-signed by either his mother, I do not have her name, or his aunt, Miss Manifa Hawkins.
Hello, Your Honor. This is his mother. May I speak? My name is Tanae Hawkins, and I'm present.
How do you spell your first name?
It's Tenee.
Tanae Hawkins. All right. Do you want to co-sign his bond?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Mr. Tucson, his mother, Tanae Hawkins, will be co-signing the bond. You need to, I'll waive the utility requirement. When you come down to Rice Street, to the, I'm sorry, not Rice Street. It's
1101 Jefferson.
1101 Jefferson Street?
Yes.
Okay, in Atlanta. Mrs. Hawkins, you will need to co-sign the bond, and you need to make sure you bring a current government issue ID.
Okay.
Right? Now, this is the rub. He's got a $3,000 signature bond through pretrial services. He'll report to pretrial once a month. If he goes back to school in Ohio, he may do telephonic reporting. He cannot return to 330 Ardmore Circle in Atlanta, Georgia. He may reside with his aunt if she's willing to put him up, or he needs an alternative address to live. He cannot live in the same household with Christian Hall.
Your Honor?
Yes, Ms. Hawkins.
My child, Christian Hall, is at Kids Peace, which is an institution. He's in defects custody. He does not live here with me at 330 Ardmore Circle.
All right, based on that representation, then Jelani Hall can live with you at 330 Ardmore Circle, as long as you understand that Christian and Jelani cannot be under the same roof.
Yes, ma'am, I'm clear. Thank you.
Okay. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons and no firearms. And his next court date will be sent to him in the mail. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
All right, we have, I'm just going to go down the calendar before I address my last case with Mr. McDowell. Mr. McDowell can come down and have a seat. All right, Lamar Allen was a $500 surety bond, reset date July 21st. Position 2, Chandler was a $5,000 surety bond, reset date July 21st. Position 3 is a medical reset to July 8th. Position 4 is a $1,500 surety bond, reset date July 21st. Position 5 is a 3,000 signature bond, further notice. Position 6, Hightower, is a $2,000 surety bond, reset July 21st. Position 7, Johnston, is a 3,500 signature bond through pretrial, reset date further notice. Position 8, Kincaid's 2,500 signature bond through pretrial, further notice. Position 9, Matson, I believe I put a $3,500 good bond, reset date July 21st. Is that correct?
I got 75.
No, Your Honor, I think it was-
75? Okay, I'm so sorry.
It was 7,500.
All right. I should write better. I'm so sorry. Okay. Position 10, Martin, is a 3,500 signature bond through pretrial for the notice. Position 11, Dorian McDowell, we're going to address this plea. Position 12, Michael, is a $2,000 surety bond, reset date July 21st. Helen Minor is a 3,500 surety bond, reset date July 21st. Position 14 is reset to tomorrow's C calendar. Position 15, Moses, is a 3,500 signature bond through pretrial per judge. Position 16, Reese, is a 3,500 signature bond through pretrial for the notice. Position 17, Whitaker, is, was that a 3,500 signature bond?
I got 3,000.
Okay.
3,000.
Yeah, 3,000 signature bond through pretrial services for the notice. And position 18, Willis, is a 4,500 surety bond for the notice to July 21st. All right. For Mr. McDowell, I understand that he's representing himself. So Ms. Kim, if you want to remain, and we have Ms. Bacchus, who is, I'm sorry, is it Ms. Bacchus or Ms. Duncan who's addressing the plea?
It's Ms. Duncan, Your Honor.
All right.
Give me 1 second. He had to go to the restroom. Let me see.
Okay. All right. Anyone else who is not involved with this case, you are free to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Have a good evening, Al.
All of
you
you
here
too.
tomorrow?
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And not for C calendar, no,
No,
but I'll
no.
be here Saturday. Okay.
All right.
Are you doing Saturday's calendar?
Yes.
Okay, I'll see you Saturday.
Yes, sir. Guess Mr. Jordan's not fishing this weekend. Right?
I won't be going fishing for the next 2 weeks, Judge. I'll be right
Oh.
here.
My heart's breaking. So sorry.
Everybody's going on vacation, aren't they?
Not me. I'll be with you. Stalwart. Okay. I guess we're just going to wait until Mr. McDowell. Ms. Duncan, you've sent the paperwork to him?
Ms. McCutcheon has.
Oh, Ms. McCutcheon, sorry. Okay. And have we received the signed documents from him, Ms. Lewis?
No, ma'am.
No? Oh.
I just sent the plea waiver. I'm still waiting on the verdict and the waiver of counsel. Ms. Lewis, I just sent you the plea waiver form. I don't have the waiver, the verdict and the waiver of counsel yet.
Just popped up.
I'm waiting for the deputy to send that to me.
Okay. All right, we'll just be in recess until Mr. McDowell and the deputy return, okay?
Thank you, Judge.
Excuse me, I did send the plea sheet back to Ms. McCutcheons, if I'm not mistaken. This Sergeant Johnson.
Yes, hello, Sergeant Johnson. I have the plea waiver form. I don't have the other two forms I sent in the second email. One is the waiver of counsel and one is the verdict form. I sent those to Deputy Alton Norris.
Yeah, and then I think I sent you some, okay, but did you receive what I just sent back to you?
Right, I received I received the plea waiver form, but there's a total of 3 different forms. So I received the 3-page form and Ms. Lewis has that one. It's just the form that's I sent in the second email, which says waiver of counsel and one says verdict form.
Okay.
He needs to sign those. Read them and sign them and acknowledge that he understands.
Okay, yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Ms. Duncan, I sent you a chat.
I just saw it.
Okay.
I didn't do any of that.
Did you send me a response in the chat?
I'm about to.
Okay. Deputies Johnson and Norris, are you still there? Did you get the second email?
Yes, we got the email.
Thank you. And I'm sorry, I see your chat. I apologize. Okay.
Thank you.
I apologize. Mhm.
All right, Courtroom Two, are we ready with Mr. McDowell?
Your Honor, I still have not received the waiver of counsel and the verdict form.
She just sent it, Ms. McCutcheon.
Okay, all righty. Let me check my email. Thank you.
All right, we are addressing case number 22 CR 004-349E. This is State versus Dorian McDowell, charged with obtaining unlawful entry into MARTA and obstruction of a law enforcement officer on July 6, 2022. Mr. McDowell, you've been advised of your right to remain silent about the facts of a case. Any statements that you make about the facts, your statements can and will be used against you. You have a right to counsel, and if you cannot afford one would be appointed to represent you. However, based on our earlier conversations, you have been advised that if you choose to represent yourself, that you are responsible for understanding how the law of, as it applies to your case, applies to the specific facts of your case, how it applies to your personal situation, and how it may impact any other open cases or your personal situation. So are you still willing to proceed representing yourself?
Yes.
All right. May I place you under oath for purposes of the plea? Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Duncan, what's the plea recommendation for Mr. McDowell?
The state's recommendation in this case is a time served plea in exchange for guilty.
All right. And is there a stay away?
Your Honor, if I can, Judge, if I can just intercede on behalf of the state, the recommendation is 12 months to serve 2 days, credit for the time that he's already served, the balance of that sentence suspended, and that he is to stay away from the Inman Park MARTA station located at 1055 DeKalb Avenue Northeast, Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay.
Do you know if he's got any suspensions in place right now?
I'm going to defer to Ms. Duncan. I'm not aware. I did not see any documents not acknowledging or affirming that in Odyssey. Ms. Duncan, are you aware? Which is why, Your Honor, I've only made the recommendation as to that particular Inman Park MARTA station.
All right, thank you.
Your Honor, I'm not aware at this time of any current MARTA suspension.
And Your Honor, just briefly, the factual basis, the defendant was observed on the incident date, which was yesterday, I believe, at the MARTA station at Inman Park at that location I just indicated in Fulton County. And he was entering into the station without paying for his passage there too. And when the officers confronted him, he then fled from the MARTA law enforcement officer, which is the basis for the obstruction of a law enforcement officer and the unlawful entry.
Okay, thank you. Mr. McDowell, you've heard the recommendation from the state in exchange for a guilty plea. The sentence will be for the 2 days that you've been spent at the jail, and that once you are released, the remainder of the time will be suspended, but that you are not to return to the Inman Park MARTA station. You can return to other MARTA properties and use them legally. In other words, make sure that you pay the requisite fare in order to use the trains and buses. But if you're passing through Inman Park, you're not allowed to disembark.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Are these the terms to which you've agreed?
Yes, ma'am.
And in exchange for accepting this plea, do you also agree and stipulate to the factual basis as Madam Prosecutor McCutcheon has listed? And do you agree?
Yes, I do.
And do you agree that the venue of this case is in Fulton County and that the identity of the perpetrator would be you?
Yes.
All right. Have you consumed any medication or any alcohol recently?
No, I have not.
And do you understand that if you decide to enter this guilty plea to these 2 charges, that they would be on your record, that you would have to waive your constitutional rights to go back to court, to have a trial in this particular case, that you would not be able to confront your accuser, examine witnesses, have the assistance of counsel to challenge the state's evidence, present your own defenses, and have the state try to prove the charges against you beyond a reasonable doubt? And I'm wondering why my video is not on. I apologize for that. So do you understand that you would have to waive these rights?
Yes, I do.
How do you plead to 1 count of obtaining an unlawful entry into MARTA and obstruction of a law enforcement officer?
Guilty.
Your sentence is time served. You have to stay away from the Inman Park MARTA station unless unless you're just passing through without disembarking at that station. You are also required to stay away from all MARTA property in accordance with any active suspension you may have. So if you're not sure, you can contact MARTA through phone or email and find out if there are any active suspensions against you. And if so, when do they expire?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Ms. McCutcheon, have you received the plea paperwork?
Yes, Your Honor, and I forwarded to Ms. Lewis. Ms. Lewis,
Okay.
you received it? There should be the 3-page plea waiver form and then the waiver of rights. I'm sorry, the waiver of jury trial and the waiver of counsel.
Yes, ma'am, I got it.
And
I did review them, Your Honor, and it does appear that the defendant did sign as appropriate.
I'll forward them already to you, Judge.
thank you. I got it, and we will enter these paperwork accordingly. All right, folks, thank you very much. That concludes our C calendar for today, July 7th. And I'll see you all on Saturday.
Thank you, Your Honor. And I apologize, Your Honor. I should have copied you. I just now noticed that you and Ms. Lewis are not in the same background.
Well, it's very misleading. So you just never know. Okay.
All right, Your Honor.
Thank you.
All right, have a great rest of your day.
Take care, everyone.
Deputies, for your assistance.
All right.